And welcome back to Big Apple Hockey. We are here for an edition of what I will now call from now on the final buzzer. I am your host, as usual, Mr. John Flokowski, aka Filk. Again, follow me on Twitter at 92 and 82, as you can see below, pointing right there. And we are back for, like I said, it's the new name for the show. It's going to be called The Final Buzzer from now on. The Good, Bad, and Ugly will still be a part of it. That is just a segment of it. So it's going to be The Final Buzzer. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of things tonight. We'll obviously have our Q&A, as always. Trade rumors to go over, any other things. We're going to incorporate it, try to make it a little bit of a bigger show. Maybe not lengthwise, but we're going to try to incorporate a little more elements of hockey talk in here and do some things. So, Mike, fantastic. I see you guys in the chat already. How are you both doing? Hope you guys enjoyed that win last night because I know I did. It was good to get back on track after the Vegas loss. So that was a big thing. Thank you, Brody. What's going on, man? So let me remove this here. But you guys know what's going on, Scarecrow. You guys know what time it is. Let's get down to that because that's the usual thing that we go through first. So, as you know it, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Well, we're going to start with the good because that's how we usually do. I know that, and Mike, I did see this. Chytil on the wing, Barron centering the fourth, and Turkin protocols. Yeah, busy day. Panarin coming back too. Nemeth coming back as well, unfortunately. So,
ooh, that's bad.
So yeah, had to throw that in there. But everything else is
that's good.
So, yeah. So we're looking at some good, some bad, some ugly. We'll start off with the good as we usually do, and I just want to say the first and third periods were both very good hockey from the Rangers. They limited Anaheim's shot count, and they were all over them in the first. I thought they should have ended that period up, I would say 3-0 maybe. They had three legitimate chances, I would say, to score that I thought they were going to convert on, including a breakaway, and they didn't. Anthony Stolarz was very good until, I would say, the third period. He only let in that one goal, and the one goal was kind of a fluke to that point. I don't think any of the goals that really beat Stolarz were really anything that he could do anything about. Just a couple of lucky bounces, and then a goal that he really didn't have a chance on, with Gettinger screening them. So the first and the third periods were just very, very good hockey from the Rangers. Hey, Davey. And I definitely agree. What a game. But, to come back being down, 1-0 and looking like they weren't going to break through because of Anaheim's defensive play, that was really good. And they kept Troy Terry off the board. He was not the one that scored. I know he got the assist, but he didn't score. Trevor Zegras didn't score. I know Ryan Getzlaf wasn't playing, but you know what? They played two really, really good periods when you think about it on the road. And Mikey, you're right here. Good things happen when you put the shots on the net. You just got to put pucks on the net, and you got to see what happens. So they did that in the third period, and the shots started going in. I do agree with you guys that in the sense, because I get you guys are implying what I'm thinking, is that in the first period or the first couple of periods, they were very hesitant to shoot the puck, and then they started throwing everything on the net in the third, and that's when the goals started going in. So definitely agree with that. And yeah, Brody, held the Ducks only 13 shots. 13. That's nuts. It was not a high shooting game. They passed up a lot of chances themselves, but to 13 shots, that's an insane figure. So good defensive hockey from the Rangers. We'll talk a little more about the second later on, but good first and third periods from them. So loved what I saw in those 2 periods. I'm going to go on to the next point, and it's let Morgan Barron play. And the good news is that he will be centering the fourth line. Hey, John. Hey, David. Mr. Fantastic, I'm going to bookmark this comment. Bookmark that comment, and I'm going to go back to that during the Q&A time because I like that question because it really is a really good question, and it's a trend that I'm noticing. Diane, you're right. They were a little better on faceoffs last night. I don't want to say significantly better, but they were a little better, and it does help. They won some key ozone draws that led to those goals in the third. So that, like I say, faceoffs are not a be-all, end-all thing. They're not a be-all, end-all stat. But O-zone and D-zone draws are very important, and everyone who says otherwise is just flat out wrong. I'm sorry, but you've got to win your offensive and defensive zone draws. You want to talk about any neutral zone draws not being that important? Fine, I'll entertain the argument, but O-zone and D-zone draws are paramount. Absolutely paramount. So, Davey, I don't know if we're going to do Olympic hockey because I don't know how much time we're going to invest into it. I will talk about this with Mark and Anthony, and we will let you guys know probably on the main show. We'll probably, talk about it. And Mike, that's the big thing, and they're important in controlling possession, which kind of leads into this. Brody, you're right. 7 out of 8 on faceoffs, and Barron's ready. I just think that I think I'm gonna bookmark this one from you too, Mr. Fantastic. I just saw that about Pavelski, so we'll talk about that later because it kind of ties into one of the other segments I'm gonna do. So, yeah, I think Barron's ready. I don't think that there's any reason that Greg McKegg should play over him anymore. I think that it's important to start giving Morgan Barron minutes at the NHL level. I don't think there's anything really left for him to prove at the AHL level. He's been really good at it. I don't know what they want from this kid anymore. Like, what do you want him to do? To dominate the AHL to the point where he looks like he's going to shatter Wayne Gretzky's records at the NHL level, where he's scoring 92 goals in a season and 215 points? Yeah. And I'm with you. I'm with you on this, Mike. They should flip Aaron and Rooney. So I don't know about I don't know why Kevin Rooney would be the third line center. I think Morgan Barron has the offensive skill and the hockey IQ that Kevin Rooney does not have to play with those guys. So I want to see Morgan Barron play with them. I don't want to see Kevin Rooney in that spot. No offense to Kevin Rooney. I love Kevin Rooney as a fourth line center. I just think that he's better as a fourth line center because I don't think he's offensively capable of being that third center. And yeah, John, you're echoing my sentiments here with this comment. David, I saw this here. Lindgren had 2 goals and the Tenori had the game winner. Do I look like, does this mean the apocalypse is upon us? Yeah, maybe it's an I Am Legend type of thing. And Jared Tenori is Will Smith. So, yeah, you know what? I'm with you on this, Mr. Fantastic. I'm not a big fan of Greg McKegg. I've gone on record saying that he's probably the most vanilla player I think I've ever seen in my life. But he's useful as a depth piece, but there's no reason why he should be, playing over Morgan Barron at this point. So I don't want to see Greg McKegg in the lineup again when you have Morgan Barron available. That pack line in general, we're going to talk about them in a few seconds, played really well. But I think Morgan Barron was one of the most noticeable players in the first, I would say, 2 periods. In the third period, I thought that the entire team picked it up. But the first 2 periods, I thought Morgan Barron was excellent. Excellent. So I want to see more of Morgan Barron. And I definitely want to see him with guys who can actually play, some skill players. I understand that they want a veteran presence on that line with those two, but it's just not a fit. You're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole with that. So, Brody, we'll talk about Tenori a little later on. I mean, we obviously have to go over his game winner, so we'll talk about him a little later on. So, Going on to my next point, though, it's the new pack line, because I put new in there because the pack line, if you all remember, was Brandon Dubinsky, Artemi Nisimov, and Ryan Callahan back in 2010-2011 season. That was the Wolf pack line. They were called up, and they were just shortened the nickname to the pack line. So all three of the guys came up through the Wolf pack. So this new little pack line of Brodzinski, Gettinger, and Barron played very well together as a fourth line. They were all really good. I thought that Brodzinski moved his feet. I liked his hustle. I think I saw more hustle from Brodzinski last night than I've seen from Hunt and McKegg all season. So if Brodzinski's going to give you that, then I would rather see Brodzinski in there over Hunt and McKegg at this point, because Hunt hasn't showed me anything in almost 2 months now. I'm tired of him dragging his ass. No more of that. I don't think he deserves to play even when he gets back from his injury. So I don't want to see him at this point, because he doesn't have the legs that he had back in November or so. So let's move on from him. If you want a 13th forward, I'm okay with Brodzinski. Gettinger actually played the best game I think he's played in his NHL career. He even laid somebody out. He was the screen on Lindgren's goal. That it was his screen. I mean, it was a 6'6" Gettinger screening a 6'6" Stolarz. That's not something you see often in hockey. So good for Gettinger to get in there. He looked good. I was happy with his performance. I didn't really expect much from him just because he hasn't really done a whole lot. I know Valakit was talking about him being quote-unquote imposing. He played a little more like that last night as opposed to any of the other games I've seen in his career. So good for Tim Gettinger to get in there, make a mark, and contribute to a goal. I liked that game. I liked his game, and I liked that line's game overall. So if that's got to be the fourth line over guys like Hunt and McKegg, then I think I'd be okay with that and sending those two down. So, but my next point will be the first line with another strong night. Mika Zibanejad gets another goal. Kakko actually played a pretty good game. I was happy with the way he played. And yeah, David, you're right about this. He got an assist, so that's good. But you know what? I liked what I saw from Kakko. And if he's going to be able to play like that going forward against good teams, that's a good sign. He didn't play well against Vegas. I thought Vegas kind of overwhelmed them with speed. He looked better against Anaheim. I know they were missing a few key guys, but excuse me. I thought Kakko was good, a lot better than what he'd been in previous games. And we need this from Kakko. We need him to be that guy. We need him to have that confidence to go out there and be on his toes and be strong and play confidently and make plays with conviction. I mean, he made the play behind the net to get Mika Zibanejad that goal. So good on Kakko. Chris Kreider, I thought, was really good. He could have scored a couple of times, was robbed by Stolarz. Mika Zibanejad obviously got the goal. That line, every time they were out there, they were creating chances. It looked like they were dangerous. They were playing with some rockets strapped to their skates, if you will. So it was good. They were getting in on the forecheck, throwing the body a bit. I just like the game. And they have to play a big, fast, heavy game to be effective, those three. And they did last night. And especially against an Anaheim team that's missing its captain and Ryan Getzlaf and some veteran leadership. And Hampus Lindholm was not there, so that hurts them defensively. You know what? They had to take advantage, and they did. And that first line definitely played well. But you're right about this, Fantastic. He's frustrating because you see the flashes, but it's inconsistent. And I've said this before. I'll say it again. I know you guys are tired of hearing the cliche, but it's true. You have to learn how to be a pro, and that's part of it. Is consistency. That's being a pro. I liked, like John said, Kakko was engaged. He was more engaged last night than he had been in some previous games. But that's a big part of it. If Kakko can play well, that helps the other two out. I mean, a big part of the year, they've been trying to find that missing piece on that line to make up for the loss of Buchnevich. Yes, I know I brought the name up. I know I brought it up. I'm sorry, but I'm just saying they've been looking to try to fill that hole. Kakko, when he plays well, can be that type of player, but he's not there yet. And I say type because he's not at that level, obviously. But when he's on, he is that type of player. A guy who drives puck possession, a guy who can hold on to the puck and move it and make decisions. He's just got to work on a shot and his decision making and just be more confident in what he does. So good on Kakko. I am with you, David. I think he works better with Brennan Strome, but it just seems like they want to keep him on the other line for whatever reason. I guess they want him to learn to play with those two because they think, yeah, and I'm with you here, Syntastic. I really think that Kravtsov is the closest thing they have to Buchnevich, and I think he would fit so well on that line. But it just, obviously, we can't do that until at least March, maybe late February at the earliest if Tractor gets blown out in the first round of the playoffs, in the KHL playoffs. So we'll see, though. But that line's playing pretty well right now. Mika Zibanejad's resurgence is the big reason for it. But Chris Kreider has been somewhat consistent, surprisingly. He hasn't ghosted out like Kreider the Friendly Ghost. Sometimes I like to call him. So, but moving on to the next point, Ryan Strome. We talked about him before. He continues to be Wait, what? Are you serious right now? Bob, I know I'm kind of derailing this a little bit, but Bob Saget passed away? No way. Don't tell me you. No. I don't see anything about Bob Saget. Oh, geez. Yes, I just found something. Fox Bangor. Oh, geez. Wow. It's a news Fox 22. Yeah. So, wow. Wow. Rest in peace, Bob Saget. Danny Tanner and America's Funniest Home Videos. When we were all growing up, America's Funniest Home Videos was Bob Saget. Extremely funny comedian. So, big loss there. Rest in peace. My condolences to the family and friends. Crazy. But I'm going to try to get back to hockey here. I'm sorry. But yeah, Ryan Strome continues to be solid on that second line. I thought that he was really good. I thought Lafreniere's game lacked a little bit. Gaudreau was meh, but Ryan Strome looked really good. He continues to just play really well despite Artemi Panarin being out. I really hope that he keeps this two-way play up when Panarin gets back. Because if he does, then the second line center position has been filled for the future. You don't have to worry about that if he's going to continue to play this well defensively. And I'm not saying he's Selke caliber, but he is the type of player that you want playing in that number 2 spot. And he's not going to break the bank for a number 2 center. Because I think, he wants to be here and the Rangers will pay him. And I think they'll be able to find a middle ground where he gets paid, but he doesn't break the bank. Because I think he knows that he's not going to have the type of success that he's having here anywhere else. And I think he's found a home. And I think players value that more than most fans think. When a player finds a home, I really think fans undervalue that when it comes to contract negotiations. So yeah, Ryan Strome's going to try to get the best that he can get, but I think he's going to be reasonable. So I think he wants to be here. So Ariana, I see this comment. I like it, and I'm going to bookmark it because we're going to go back from it. Go back to it during the Q&A time. I have a few comments bookmarked already. So yeah, Mr. Syntastic, again, yeah. Him and Panarin seem to be buddy. I don't think you break that up. And why do you want to lose a mom that calls Igor Shesterkin? I mean, how great is that? We don't want to lose Mrs. Strome. She's a quality mom. So yeah, we definitely want to keep the Shesterkinisms around. So, but yeah, I love what I've seen from Ryan Strome during this. I think that he's found a home. I think he's loved in the locker room by everyone. I like what he brings to this team now. And he seems to have rounded out his game this season. And I wonder if that's the Gallant effect or if that's him wanting to take the next step in his game and he's finally really, truly maturing. I mean, you got to remember, it took guys like Modano and others until they were later in their 20s, some of them in their 30s, to really round out their games defensively. Modano credited Ken Hitchcock. Steve Yzerman credited Scotty Bowman. So, I really, and Brody, you're right about this. McDavid was upset when he was moved from the Oilers. And, that's a great point. Joe Micheletti brought that up during the Oilers game. So yeah. Looking at that, I'm just getting texts about the whole Bob Saget thing. So I only have a few more points to go over, and then we'll go over to Q&A. The team defense and the defense corps were pretty good. I know somebody said Adam Fox had kind of a bad game before. Trying to find that comment. I forget who it was. But somebody said that Adam Fox did not even have a great... Oh, it was Mike. Okay, this one. Yeah, here. Foxy played a bad game for Foxy, but he was still one of the best D on the ice. Yeah, I mean, that is true. And I think that he definitely liked playing against Anaheim last night because I thought that his game wasn't bad, but it was not great either. He had an assist. I think Lindgren kind of took over the game last night there for a little bit. I thought Lindgren played very well. He made a mistake early on in the first period that I was kind of like, hey, what are you doing? But I really liked their game overall. I think the team defense also was really good. I think the attention to detail on the back checks and everything were really good. I liked what I saw from them up and down. But you know what? I really liked what I've seen from this team. I think when their defense is on, their defense is really good, and they can play with a lot of teams. So even Jared Tenorti wasn't bad. Like I didn't really notice Tenorti in a good way. So I mean I guess I can't say he was bad. Was he good or great? Nah, but he was okay, So, but I get this, Brody. A lot of people gave Strome a lot of hate, and yeah, Mike, you're right about that too. The hate, it just never makes any sense. Joe, maybe that's what it was. Maybe Quinn just had him play a different way. Maybe Gallant has finally found a way to tap into his other parts of his game. So. Yeah, I mean, I think we're all. I was surprised in a way, Mr. Fantastic, but I wasn't in another way because it just seems that Gallant has to go with some sort of experience, no matter what. I don't understand it. If that's the case, then you could probably break up Fox and Lindgren and have the pairings worked around a little bit. I mean, I wouldn't mind Lindgren playing on a third pairing with Nils Lundqvist, and then Trouba and Zach Jones together on a second pairing, and then Miller and Fox on the first pair. I mean, that could work, I think. So, but yeah. I'm not going to kill Miller for that, but he should have moved the puck a little earlier on that play. So, I can't. Players, fan on pucks. It happens. I've done it in games. It's just, it happens. And just like Mike and John are saying, remember, like, share, and subscribe. And like I said, it helps it helps the videos come up in the algorithms, and we get to put out more content for you and do more segments and get more cool things and giveaways and contests and stuff like that. We want to start doing more of that. So, I mean, any likes, shares, and subscribes can help out the channel. We greatly appreciate that if you guys would, and girls too. As I see our female viewers are in here as well. So thank you all for coming on with me doing this. And just please remember, like, share, and subscribe. We really do appreciate it. So, yeah, getting back to the overall, I mean, to hold a team to 13 shots when you think about it, and that's pretty damn impressive. So, oh, wow. There we go. Here's an old friend of mine, a diehard fan, Peter Jetter. Wow. Glad to see you in here, my friend. A long time friend of mine. Going back 17 years now, I've known that guy. It's how that man is actually how I met Anthony. So that goes to show you how far back I go with that guy. So definitely welcome to the show, Peter. Good to have you with me, man. I know you'll have some things to say, so I'd love to hear some of your thoughts in regards to this stuff. But I got only 2 more points left, really. Actually, 3, I should say, before we do like the Q&A and the trade rumors and stuff. So the next one, Lindgren. Obviously, what a night from Lindgren. Thought he was great. I thought that was probably his best game in the season. Obviously, the 2 goals helped, but I just thought defensively he was really good, especially after Vegas, where I don't think he really had a good game. It was a real bounce back for him, and it really helps. You want to see both of those guys on that pairing playing well, not just Fox carrying Lindgren, and usually Ryan Lindgren is pretty solid and steady defensively. Not spectacular or world-beating or anything like that, but he's very, very solid, very reliable and consistent. So this was more of a good game for Lindgren, more of like the icing on the cake, getting the 2 goals, but very good defensive play, usual physical play as always. But yeah, Pete, definitely a long time no see. Definitely good to see you on here, man. So join in on the conversation. You'll find this is a pretty good community here that we have going. So, but yeah, back to Lindy. I just thought that he played a real spectacular game. He was probably the Rangers' best defenseman last night. I mean, Fox probably might have been number 2, but Lindgren definitely stole the spotlight last night. His skating was good. His puck movement was good. I just thought every facet of his game was really on point last night. So good for Lindgren to get everything going. He looked good. Looked really good, and was really happy to see him have that game and to get those 2 goals. Awesome. So you know what? Sometimes your forwards aren't always going to put the puck in the net, and sometimes your defense has really got to step up and help out offensively. The defense stepped up last night, 3 goals from them. So Lindgren with 2 of them. Obviously, Tenorti, which is my next one. Tenorti scoring is hilarious. I don't care what anybody says. Jared Tenorti scoring will never not make me laugh because that guy should not be scoring goals. But if he scores them, you take them. And you laugh because he looks like Tanner Glass with the Broadway hat on in the locker room afterwards. That guy, I swear, looks like a 6'6" version of Tanner Glass. So game winner for Tenorti. I think that they were also. It was awesome to see Tenorti get the game winner. It was a really fluky goal, but they needed to get a goal, and they came out strong to start that period and got that goal pretty early. So you know what? Good for them to get that goal early and really get ahead and start to take over that period, because Anaheim never recovered after that goal. They never recovered, and the Rangers never let their foot off the Anaheim's throat. That's how you close out a game. That's how you play a third period of hockey, especially on the road. And you know what? Again, they had guys out. Fine. But the Rangers were playing with guys out. There was no Panarin. You know, you're without Reeves. You know, again, so everybody's got to deal with this COVID garbage. But it's how you finish these games out. And honestly, to see Jared Tenorti score, I cracked up last night. I just laughed hysterically, and then I did a little New York Rangers Shot Club tweet afterwards because yeah, I had a few beers last night. It was fun. Good game to have some beers for. A little late game. I was at a friend's house for the first 2 periods. So you know what? To get that win, impressive, and Jared Tenorti scoring is just a nice, funny bonus. It's kind of like when, kind of like Sideshow Bob on The Simpsons. When Sideshow Bob stars in the episode, he's really like the star of the episode. I guess that's the way you would put about, or the way you would think about it. So it's like Sideshow Bob being the hero, if you will. But yeah, my last point is the second period. And that's my only bad thing is the second one. You know, yeah, you know what? I get this, Ariana, but let's not minimize the importance. He's an important guy to the lineup. He's a locker room guy. He's physical. It's an intangible having him out there. You can't measure it, but he helps make that fourth line effective. So it's you're not losing the game because Reeves is out, but Reeves definitely helps you. So, I mean, I'm just illustrating the point that the Rangers were missing guys too, just like Anaheim was. And Igor wasn't playing. So, you know what? Yeah, their backup was playing too, but our starter would have been playing. So, yeah, Chris, you're right about that. It's a Jekyll and Hyde situation. So, but yeah, I mean, the second period though was shaky. That was really it. That was the only problem I had with the game. And yes, fantastic. Yeah, this is it. Yeah, I mean, he keeps teams on their best behavior. It keeps them straight. So, the second period was shaky. They let up the goal. I know they scored a goal to tie it as well, but they just did not look right in that second period, and that was the big thing for me. Obviously, Anaheim came out. They had some jump in their play. You know, they had some oomph to them. And they came out and they responded in the second after really what I thought was a dominant first period from the Rangers on anything but the scoreboard. So, yeah, Chris, we'll talk about this, the Tomas Hertl chatter. I don't know if I necessarily agree that it'll happen, but there is chatter. So we will talk about that in, after we're done with this last point here. But the second period was just not their period. You got to play full 60 minutes. They played 40 minutes well, but that the 20 minutes in between the two 20-minute periods that they played well was not good. Was not good. They let Anaheim get back into the game. They let them, they let them get ahead there, and they were down for a bit. So good for them to tie it, but you gotta be stronger for closer to 60 minutes. And that second period was bad, but I know it's a little bit of a fluky mistake with Miller. So I don't care about that too much because again, it happens. Sometimes you're just gonna fan on a pass. So yeah, and Mike, you're right about this. They get cutesy and it doesn't end well. So yeah, and I want no part of Evander Kane as well. I no thanks. No thanks to Evander Kane. We're not dealing with that. They just got rid of a headache in Tony DeAngelo. You think they're going to take on a bigger one, Evander Kane? You got another thing coming. So, hey Rick, what's going on? I see you just joined us. Block this little spam bot here. Yeah. So, and yeah, this is another good point, Brody. Him and Reeves don't like each other at all, and I don't want that because everybody in that locker room loves Revo, and Revo is due to the fact that he's liked universally by almost every team he's ever played on. They all loved him. I don't want to bring in Evander Kane and mess with the locker room because that's going to be a big problem. Music's welcome back. Haven't seen you in a bit. So I see you in the chat. But yeah, we got through everything here. So we'll just go through some other stuff, and then we'll do Q&A as well. But Chris G, welcome back. Chris G's a regular. I almost always see Chris G in here. But trade rumors. So I put up a Facebook post for this in the Facebook group. Yeah, this. You thought Tony DeAngelo was a problem. Kane's going to make him look like Playtime or a choir boy or Barney and Friends. He's just going to make it look like that. He's going to make it look like a slow Tuesday at the Kitty Corral. It's not a good move at all to even suggest Evander Kane. I want nothing to do with him. So let some team take a chance on him. The Rangers don't need to be that team though. So, but I put up a post in the Facebook group for this, and in the picture I put a picture of John Klingberg because in Larry Brooks's latest article today, he mentions that John Klingberg could be a target for the New York Rangers. Now, I don't think that'll be the case. That sounds like a lot of all-in type move right there. I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull a trigger on John Klingberg because I just think that it was I just don't think it's a good idea. I think, one, you have too many puck movers already. Fox is a puck mover. Lundqvist is a puck mover. Miller's a puck mover. And yes, I know Klingberg is better than the latter two. But you need more two-way guys at this point. And Klingberg's going to cost a lot because there's going to be a bidding war for him. And I don't want anything to do with the price that it's going to take to get him to New York. I just don't. If I'm going to go and pay up big money for a rental, let me go pay big money for Pavelski. And that's something that was talked about before. It's from Mr. Fantastic. I told you I bookmarked this one. Future Ranger Joe Pavelski had a big goal yesterday for Dallas. Yes, he did, because he helped beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. Yes. And yeah, you needed Pittsburgh we needed Pittsburgh to lose. They lost. The Rangers won. So yeah, that's a big goal from Pavelski. I believe it was Rupe Hintz that had the game winner. But yeah. So Klingberg would be useless if he doesn't get top dog minutes, and he won't. Ariana, I sort of agree with this. He's good at even strength, but where are you putting him on power play 1? Because that runs through Adam Fox. So Pavelski is 37, and yes, he's still good, Chris G. We could absolutely use him. So he plays center and right wing, kills penalties, is a power play guy, could play on either power play units. So I do agree with you, Rick, but if I'm going to go spend on a rental, it's Pavelski. I'm not going to spend on Klingberg. David's right here. He's too much of a luxury to pay the price that we need to obtain him. If we were lacking on the back end, then yeah, it's more plausible there. So I'm totally with you. I hate the Penguins too. I'm obviously not big on the Islanders, even though I cover them objectively on here. I do hate the Islanders. The Devils too. But Pittsburgh is up there, Washington, the Flyers, the Capitals. So, but yeah, and this is a big thing. Kreider and Pavelski, two of the best tipping pucks in front of the net. Pavelski is arguably the best net front presence in the league still to this day. So Pavelski's really good at that. He's amazing. So get rid of this banner here because now it's Q&A time. But the other trade rumor that I saw that we would go over would be this one from Chris G. Tomas Hertl chatter. Yes, it came up again. Tomas Hertl. His name keeps getting linked to the Rangers. I don't know if it's going to happen because of the fact that it's just going to cost a lot to get him. And I just don't see them paying up for a rental like him unless the idea would be to replace Ryan Strome, and I do not think that that's smart. So I don't think Tomas Hertl will be a Ranger. I think they'll kick the tires, but I think ultimately the cost will be too much, and I think they'll be out on that. So I've seen the name. Frank Saravalli brought it up again. He I think this is like the second or third time I think he's mentioned Hertl to the Rangers. But Frank Saravalli is probably the most reliable insider in the entire league at this point. Now that Bob McKenzie's really kind of stepped back, but we'll see what happens. I don't see it. I've always gone by that. I think that they're going to make either an acquisition for a pure rental that costs, something relatively cheap, or a player that's got term on his deal that doesn't have that big of a cap hit, like a young cost-controlled asset. So, Mike, Phil Kessel to me makes a lot of sense. I know a lot of people are going to say, I don't blame people for getting annoyed when they see Kessel, because Kessel just doesn't play the type of game that Ranger fans want at this point. But I think he just makes too much sense. So I think realistically he probably will end up being the guy that they'll get. Scarecrow, I'm pretty sure this is probably sarcasm, but I want nothing to do with Patty Kane either. I don't want nothing to do with him. Excuse me. One, it'll cost too much to get Kane, and two, even with 50% retention, I don't think that you could even fit Kane for next year, because I think he has 1 year left after this. I'm pretty sure it's 1 year left. I'm just going to check Cap Friendly on that, but I think that it's 1 year left. 1 year left after this year. So at 10.5 million. So, and Pete, it's funny enough you bring up Kravtsov. Glad you did, because that's that was one of the bookmark comments here from Ariana. It would be in Kravtsov's best interest to come back and play for the Rangers. What's he going to do when? I think he's going to come back and play for the Rangers. So yeah, I don't think that he's going anywhere until at least after the season ends. I think he needs to get some games in to build up his value if he wants to help facilitate a trade. Or I think the best thing to do for both sides would be to have this guy come back here, play on that line with Zibanejad and Kreider, and have Kakko play with Strome and Panarin. And I think you could build up two solid scoring lines that way, because I think Kravtsov would fit right in with Zibanejad and Kreider. I just think that he fits in. He would fit in so well in that Buchnevich spot, because he plays a lot like Buchnevich. So, and David, this is for Kane. You're right about this. You'd have to work a third team in to have them retain half, and then you'd have to give up an asset to that third team to have them do that. So, not exactly easy trade to get Pat Kane in New York, and I really don't want him here after his comment about the Aldrich situation and how he defended Stan Bowman. So, I really don't want him here after that. But yeah, Pete, I think Kravtsov comes back and plays. I think he comes back and plays at the end of the season. He gets a cup of coffee in, and he ends up ending the season with the team. If he can make the playoff roster, that'd be great, especially if he has a good playoffs. Brody, yeah. I would take Kane, the mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, Glenn Jacobs, over Evander Kane or a Patty Kane at this point. So I want nothing to do with either of those two. And John, yeah, that's a big thing. Kravtsov can drive play. He's good enough to hold on to the puck, gain entry to the zone, And his defensive game and his board game has improved big time. And we saw that at the end of last year when he came and played those 20 games last year. So why can't this kid play? And how in the blue hell did they ever think that Dryden Hunt or Julian Gauthier outplayed him in the preseason? Because they really didn't. So, but yeah, I like Kravtsov's game. I just think that he is the closest thing they have to Buchnevich. And I think that they would be better off having him come back. Because remember, you're going to need entry-level contract talent on this team going forward. Because there's going to be a lot of cap issues, especially with Fox's extension kicking in. You got to get rid of Nemeth. At some point, you're going to have to move on from Jacob Trouba because you can't have an $8 million second pairing defenseman. Listen, I like Jacob Trouba's game. He's been about worth about $5.5 to $6 million defenseman this year. But that extra $2 million kills you against the cap. It kills you. So, I mean, you gotta worry about these things. And honestly, looking at this team, they have some dead cap to deal with too. I mean, your dead cap. You have Henrik Lundqvist's $1.5 million comes off the books after this season. Kevin Shattenkirk still has one more year left at 1.43. Dan Girardi still has one more year left at 1.11. And then you have Tony DeAngelo's dead cap of $883,000 next year. So they lose $1 million in dead cap from this year to next year. But after that, there's no dead cap in 2023, 24, and beyond. So that's $3.427 million off the books after the following season. And you gotta make good with the cap. And honestly, I would really think about keeping entry-level contract on this team. And that's why when people talk to me about Jacob Chychrun, and I hear Jacob Chychrun's name all the time, and they're, oh, the Rangers should go get Jacob Chychrun. Oh, well, Jacob Chychrun would be yeah, Ariana, you're definitely right about this. I'll get to this in a second. I'm just going to make a point about Chychrun, and then I'll get to that. But the thing with this team is that you're going to need, like I said, you're going to need entry-level talent on those entry-level deals. You're going to need them to produce. And that's why when people talk to me about Jacob Chychrun's a luxury. Just like John Klingberg is a luxury, so is Jacob Chychrun. Now, Jacob Chychrun's played one good year of hockey. John Klingberg is a proven offensive defenseman and upper-level puck mover. So, and yeah, Ariana, you're right. Kravtsov would be cheap for a while. That's the point I'm getting at. But Chychrun, Ranger fans want him because he's a new shiny toy. And then you even had the discussion on Twitter where people were like, oh, well, Chychrun would be better with he would be better with Fox than Lindgren, and he'd be an upgrade over Lindgren. Okay. So then in 3 years, when Chychrun's deal ends and you have to pay him Jacob Trouba money, what he's getting, when he's getting basically what Jacob Trouba is getting right now in his AAV, like $8 million, you're going to have to pay Jacob Chychrun for that. And you're going to have to pay him for one good year. Just remember that. One good year. And you're really going to go and do that and then create another problem on defense when you could save $2 to $2.5 million by keeping Lindgren there and letting kids like Schneider and Lundqvist and Jones develop? I mean, if you want to go get veteran depth health, okay, fine. Not a problem. You want to go get Ben Sherratt in free agency for, I don't know, $3 million, something like that? Sure, no problem. Fine. But you got to get rid of Nemeth because Nemeth is bad, and he's not an NHL-level defenseman. Barclay Goodrow's contract, as good as he's played lately, is still not good at all. I mean, you're paying $3.6 million, almost $4 million for a guy who's really a fourth/third liner. And not really a great look, but he's played better as of late, so I guess it's more tolerable. But, I mean, cap management is key. Cap management is key, and having Vitaly Kravtsov in this lineup for the next few years and producing on an ELC would go such a long way to helping this team out. So I think it's time we start managing everything correctly. And that was Ariana's comment here. That was so baffling about the sequence of trading Booch for not fair value at all, and then you mismanage Kravtsov's spot in the lineup. That's the thing. How do you do that? How do you do that? You have a player like Buchnevich who's almost a point per game. He's a penalty killer, and he goes and he starts to play physically, improves his defensive game, and then you just deal him for an underwhelming return. And then the idea is that you're going to give time to Kravtsov and Kakko in the top 6. Okay, fine. You know what? You think they're ready? Let's go. And then, like Brody says here, management drops the ball. Welcome to being a Rangers fan. It's literally all I can say at this point. Welcome to being a Rangers fan. And Fantastic, you're right. You know what? He's good right now for the team, but the contract's still not that great. So, you know what? It's the contract that really bothers me, that he's not going to be able to live up to that. And you don't want to overpay bottom 6 players. Look at the New York Islanders. The New York Islanders got into trouble because they were overpaying bottom 6 players. J.G. Pageau, $5 million third-line center. Yeah, that's great that he's a third-line center for you. That's great depth. But you're paying him $5 million. Where is your cap space to go out and sign top 6 forward help? They've needed a sniper for 20 years now. Where are their snipers? They've only had 2 40-goal scorers in the last 20 years. And that was Jason Blake in 2007 and Anders Lee in 2008. Or was he 2007? No, he was 2008 as well. He was Tavares' last year. Yeah. So, I mean, Anders Lee, he's never going to score 40 goals again because he's just not that type of player. John Tavares carried him. But he's good for 25 goals. But, again, you paid him $7 million. That's a lot for a 25-goal scorer. A guy that's not going to be a 30-plus goal scorer without a guy like Tavares around. So, but again, no, and David, you're right. Ladd wasn't supposed to be a bottom 6 player, but I'm not even talking about him. I'm talking about Pageau. I'm talking about Clutterbuck. I'm talking about Matt Martin making $2.5 million. And I know that's not a lot, but Matt Martin is not a $2.5 million player. If we've seen what Matt Martin does without guys like Clutterbuck and Cizikas. Cizikas really drives that line. And Matt Martin's not worth $2.5 million. So you got to be careful with these bottom 6 contracts. And that's why I get on the contract for Gaudreau. I like the player. I just don't like the contract. It's just it. Contract's just not good. So hopefully he can continue his good play, and it makes the deal makes the contract easier to swallow. So, but this was the last bookmarked one that I had from Mr. Fantastic. Half of the Rangers' losses this year are in relative blowout losses. What do you think accounts for that? Inconsistency. That's probably the biggest thing I see is inconsistency in it. It just they come out and they play so well for so long, but then they have that one or two games where they look out of it. I don't know if they're tired or if it's just playing against better teams. The games that they've gotten blown out by are all against good teams. So that's the big thing here. And looking at their schedule, Musics, I like that comment. I'm going to get to that in a second, but I just want to pull up their schedule here. So the games that they've been blown out in. All right. We're going back to October. Okay, so they get blown out Washington first game of the year. Again, good team. Then they get blown out by Calgary 5-1. Good team. They get blown out by Calgary again 6-0. Good team. And then so there's 3 blowouts so far. Blown out by Colorado 7-3. Good team. And that's 4. So, and then Vegas. Okay, so 5. So 5. It's 5 teams that blew 5 blowout games, and they're all good teams. And yeah, it's been Western Conference teams for the most part. So, but yeah, again, yeah, the player's value does drop. You're right about this, Ariana. Again, I totally agree with you on this. But and they do have their value. I'm not saying they don't. It's just you gotta be careful with those. You can't give too many of those out, and you've got to be able to develop bottom 6 forwards. That's why I think somebody like Brett Berard in a couple of years is going to be really important to this team, because he's going to come into that lineup and he's going to be that middle 6 guy, that third line, maybe even a fourth line for a little bit, where he comes up and they're like, oh wow, like this kid can play. And he could be in that role. So it's going to be important to get those guys, especially on ELCs, because you need your bottom 6 forwards to be on ELC contracts so you can go and pay your top 6 forwards the bigger money. And you can save on your bottom 6 and your bottom pairing defense. That's why the Nemeth contract to me was always stupid from the minute they signed it, especially when you could have went and signed somebody like John Merrill or Ben Hutton for less than $1 million. I'm sorry, but there's just no argument against that. There's none. And I know that there's not a lot of people that are Nemeth fans, but I know that people will try to justify that contract in some sort of way sometimes. They shot themselves in the foot with it. That's it. It happens. You know what? So that's my point. Be careful on where you spend your cap. You got to allocate your cap smartly. And I don't know if Gaudreau is a smart allocation of cap. I said he was a player that I wanted, but I do think that they went a little above and beyond for him, which they really did. And remember, when they signed him, I said that they had to win the battle on a few different fronts. If you were going to give him a high AAV, the years had to be down. If you were going to give him trade clauses, then you have to make him give up and compromise somewhere else. But they gave him everything he wanted on that contract, and that's where they went wrong. So if they were going to give him the no trade clause and the years, then the AAV should have been under 3. 275, something like that. 285. You know, you get. I know that I'm mincing over 750K, but if you do that for every player, it adds up. That's the thing. It adds up over time and with many players. So, yeah, I'm sure Nemeth is a Nemeth fan as well. And I'm not going to say where I got this from, but the Rangers organization is high on Cooley. They're very high on Cooley. And I think you might see him maybe as soon as next year. I don't know exactly when next year, but you might see him next year. And there's a chance you might see Othman next year too. Just something to throw out there. I can't say much more, but look out for it. Mr. Fantastic, yeah, I think that is part of it. I think there's a rookie GM at the helm and he's making mistakes. He's making mistakes. You can't do that. The Buchnevich trade was a mistake. So, I mean, he didn't want to look dumb in his first move, but the Buchnevich trade was not a good move. I'm not trying to sit here and harp on it, but you can look back at it all you want. You traded a player that's now a point per game, and he's a penalty killer and a good defensive player. Not a Selke caliber defensive player, but a good defensive player, a passable one. You traded a guy that was a legitimate first-line right winger for a second-round pick in Sammy Blais. And I like Sammy Blais. And I think Sammy Blais will be a good contributing player for this team. But not a good move. Not a good move. So, Music, I'm with you on this. Barron, I think, is going to be a good fit in that bottom six. And I think there might be a little more of a ceiling to Morgan Barron. I think he's a high-skilled player. I think if the skating gets better with Morgan Barron, there's an outside shot that he could be a second-line center. That's just me. Maybe I'm being a little optimistic, but I think he's got a high hockey IQ. I think he's got a very good shot, and I think that his hands are very good as well. I think he's just got a feel for the game and a skill level that could bring him higher. I think the skating might be what holds him back in the end if he doesn't improve it. So, yeah, and David, yeah, I get that. I get you had to go and sign him and give him the deal that he wanted, especially after you traded for him, but you didn't give up that much to get him. So what's the big deal if you lose on that? That extra year they gave Reeves can buy Cooley an extra. Yeah, and you're right about that, Ariana. You're right. You're absolutely right about that. So they actually span that out well. Again, even Reeves, what, $1.75 million I think he's making against the books. Excuse me. Sorry, guys and girls. Ryan Reeves. Let's see here. Yes, $1.75 million. 2 years, this year and next. So, even that, a little bit of a big contract. He's not a guy that really gives you the offense that justifies 1.75. And I know that I'm saying in one sentence that Reeves is not a guy you look at the offensive numbers or analytics for, and then I turn around and I talk at tangibles, and then I mention that. But you got to be careful with what you sign your fourth liners to. Got to be careful. So, but no, I think Ryan Reeves, I think it's good that they have him for another year. And if they want to bring him back after next year at a cheaper contract, I'd be okay with that too, depending on how he plays next season. So, Fantastic. What do I think is going on with Chytil? Personally, I thought he was going to have a breakout year, especially after his great preseason. Your guess is as good as mine in this one. I got to be honest with you. I'm disappointed. I'm really disappointed in him more than anything. I thought he was going to take that next step. I thought he could have, maybe driven the play on that third line, but it seems like he's not a center. And they're trying to, like I said before, they're trying to fit round pegs into square holes and vice versa. But you know what? John's right on this. It's make or break for Chytil. And it's make or break or change of scenery. Yeah, pretty much. So, yeah, Mike, I agree with that. I totally agree. Again, I said Reeves is not a player that you just judge solely by analytics or stats or anything like that. His impact on this game is much more than numbers. So, and I mean, I know hits are a big number for him, but yeah, I mean, his intimidation and just his presence on the ice, it scares players because they don't want to get hit. So, Ariana, I can't begin to explain what's going on with Chytil's probably gone because the cap space from right now is not helping the team. Yeah, I think so too. I think he's probably gone. I mean, I don't know if I would move him for a rental, but I think he's gone at the end of the season. And yeah, I agree. He's absolutely not a center. So, Mike, definitely agree with this. Barron in one game has driven more play than Chytil has so far this season. Yeah, I've kind of got to agree with that. Like I said, I've been really disappointed. I thought Morgan Barron was very noticeable last night. I think you could save yourself probably about $1.5 million by having Barron come in and be the team's third line center, because I really don't think there's that much of a downgrade from him from Chytil to him at this point. I really don't. Mr. Fantastic, I think that you're right about this. I think he'll be more valuable in the playoffs. I think that they would need it. John, I would take that in a heartbeat. I don't know if LA would, but I would take that in a heartbeat. Wouldn't even think twice about it. Bruce, welcome back, my friend. With the teams they've lost to, Rangers are a bit slower, so the margin of error is small. The last 2 games show the difference. Yeah, team speed definitely plays a factor, especially against good teams. Good teams usually play at high tempos, and they execute the game well at high speeds. Their breakouts are all pretty fluid. Vegas' breakouts on Thursday were all really good. I thought they moved the puck out of the zone with quickness and precision. They were decisive about what they were doing with and without the puck. And that's the big difference for me with the contender. Colorado, same thing. All the contenders, they move the puck quickly, and they move it decisively, and they move it well. So the Rangers have got to do better do a better job of that against these better teams in these games. So I will definitely agree with you here on this. It definitely lowers the margin of error. And in a games like that where the margin of error has to be really small, experience can play a factor. And the Rangers are a very young team, one of the 3 to 5 youngest teams in the NHL. So, Mr. Fantastic, I would love this, but this is definitely not happening. I definitely do. I would eat a hat. Well, I can't physically eat a hat, obviously, but I figuratively I would eat a hat saying is what I would do if Turcotte got traded to the Rangers for Chytil, because I do not see that happening. I think there's just too much upside with Alex Turcotte. I would take him in a heartbeat for FIlip Chytil. Wouldn't even think twice about it. So. Yeah, Vegas is going to be a monster when Eichel comes back healthy. So Riley Smith will probably end up being moved, if you ask me. That'll be another target for the Rangers. So turning the puck over in the neutral zone against Vegas with your bench on the other side of the ice is a killer. Yeah, you can't do that. It would be Chytil plus other assets. I don't think they do that, Mr. Fantastic. I really don't think they do that. I think that Turcotte and Byfield are going to be off limits. I think that's their plan with those two is probably to have them be the 1-2 once his game really starts falling off, and then he eventually retires. So I just don't see it. If you think it could happen, power to you. But I don't see it. And although I would love to be wrong, I think that has a slim to no chance of happening, because I don't see it. I really don't. John, yeah, Mark Bergevin works for the LA Kings now. Yeah, I mean he's good for some dumb moves, but I don't think they fired their GM LA. I think Bergevin just is in the organization, so I don't know if that'll eventually happen. Yeah, I know. I figured as much. I love Turcotte too. I think he's a good player. I thought that he was going to be arguably the best player to come out of that 2019 US NDTP class. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of his. I think he's going to be a great NHL level player. Yeah, Blake is still the GM. Yeah, Bergeron is an assistant. So, but yeah, I don't see that happening. I see Riley Smith and Phil Kessel right at the top of the Rangers list. That's my thing. I think those two are going to be targets. I think there might be another veteran defenseman that might become available that the Rangers are probably end up going after. I don't think Ben Sherratt is going to get the price that they were talking about of a first-round pick and so on. I think that's just too much for Ben Sherratt. I think he's a decent defender. He ain't worth all that. So. Yeah, so pretty interesting, run in the trade rumor mill with everything that's going on with the hurdle and Klingberg's name coming up was pretty funny to see that as a potential option. I just think there's going to be other players that'll come along. So I think that I don't think Chychrun's coming to the Rangers. I don't see that happening. So I don't think it's anything to worry about. Pavelski, I think, would be perfect. So that's just me. I see people mention Georgiev's name. I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, McCann, I think, is a realistic target. I think that's a very realistic one. I know, John, you've mentioned Andrew Kopp's name several times. I don't think Winnipeg is moving him. I don't. But Pavelski would be a target. I would happen to think, depending on what the cost is, his cost should be less because of the fact that he's going to be 30. He's going to be 38 next year. So we just need the Oilers to oil themselves out of the playoffs. Oh, geez. Oilers going to oil. Grant, what's going on, man? What's it going to cost for us to dump Nemeth in the offseason? Ooh. No, he's not, Dave. He's not related to Darren. But to get back to Grant's question here, I think you could just send him to the minors, or you could just send him to a team and add on like a 5th-round pick to him or something, or a 4th-round pick. I just don't see. I don't see him taking a lot to move. So, just call Ken Holland. Yeah, Mr. Fantastic. When it's all said and done, do I think the Rangers make a big move? Again, I like I said before, I don't see a big move. If you're expecting the blockbuster that blows everybody out of the water, I don't think it's happening. Jared McCann, yeah, I could see that. I could have seen Brandon Tanev too if he didn't tear his ACL. I could have seen him as an addition. I could see Jared McCann. I mean, maybe Pavelski. Maybe. I think that might be the biggest one. Kessel or Riley Smith are probably the two big names. I don't know if you're looking for, like, by big move, I don't know if you're expecting somebody out of the blue that wouldn't have normally been available, or if by big move you're talking about the guys that I'm mentioning. I mean, if you're talking about the guys that I'm mentioning, Kessel or Riley Smith is probably the most realistic move. I just think that they're not going to cost much as rentals. So, especially with Vegas's cap situation and Kessel's lack of production in Arizona and him getting up there in age. So, oh man. Yeah, so I think we're looking at I don't think they're going to stand pat, but I don't think they're going to go all in and go crazy at this deadline. It doesn't make sense right now. They're not one or two moves away. I mean, maybe next season, if they make a couple of moves in the offseason to get them closer and they're playing really well next season, then I think you could see this team make moves next season that would be reminiscent of an all-in type move, you know? Alec Martinez. I don't, it's funny, Coyote, because I read your screen name and I read Martinez, but I didn't read the VGK part and thought you were talking about Arizona. And I was like, wait, Alec Martinez is not on Arizona. So that's how you know I might be a little tired, aside from the yawning. And I apologize for the yawning. I just wore myself out today with a little lack of sleep from last night. You know what? Max Domi is an interesting one, John, but I think the Rangers might stay away from him. I don't know if Columbus will really I don't know if Columbus will deal him to the Rangers. You know, I don't know. That's just me, but so let's see what Max Domi's contract situation is like. He is a UFA at the end of the year. He's only 26 years old. Wow. Okay. So he will be 27 by the end of the year. UFA. Maybe. He's an enigma though. Yeah, I don't know if I want Alec Martinez on the Rangers. I don't like his contract. I will tell you that. I do not like Alec Martinez's contract. I don't think he's good enough to be paid what he's getting paid, $5.25 million. No way. Especially at 34 years old, and he's got 2 years left on his deal after this, which include a 12-team no-trade list next season and an 8-team no-trade list the year after. So he is movable, but 5.25 is way too much cap hit for Alec Martinez. And would he help? Yes, he would help. But at 5.25, nope. Grant, this is actually a really good question. What Rangers picks and prospects would I be okay with moving if they are going with a small buy? If you're talking prospects, if they're doing something small, Kravtsov's out, Schneider's out, Jones is out, Lundqvist's out. I'd move Robertson, depending on what the buy is. I would prefer not to for a smaller piece, but I would think about it. Palmieri, your Hunter Skinners of the world, prospects like that, I would be okay with moving for small acquisitions. So that's really the thing with me, is I would move those. Palmieri, I would rather hold on to him. Not that he's untouchable, but is it really worth the small buy for moving a guy like him? I think there's a shot that he could be an NHL player and a decent one at that. So Kessel for a second and see how next season shakes out. Yeah, I mean, Kessel, I think Kessel's going to be on the top of their list. I really think that he's going to be a guy that they could definitely. It's more than possible that they bring him in. I think he's got the speed to keep up with Kreider and Zibanejad. I think he's got the playmaking ability to help those two out. And he can snipe as well. I think he checks the boxes on offense. I know he's not a good defensive player, but he definitely checks the boxes on offense. Yeah, I mean, this is interesting though, this trade deadline, because they're in one of those positions that they're not good enough, like I said before, to be that all-in team. But you don't want to stand pat, and you have Mika and Panarin still in their prime. Panarin's 30 years old, Mika's 28. You don't want to wait too long for the kids, because then they get out of their prime, and then they're not as productive. It's tough. I don't envy Drury's situation here. If there's a move that makes makes too much sense to pass up, then you make it. Otherwise, I think you stick with a smaller move, and then you try to make an improvement to the bottom pairing or the bottom six forwards, and maybe move somebody up in the lineup. So. And you know what? You're right about this, Mike. I think they are punching a little above their weight. Not just a little, a bit. But I think Gallant is really the key here. I think you've got a Jack Adams winner in Gallant right now. I think he should win the Jack Adams this year. And yeah, I'm biased, but this team is actually worse on paper than the one that David Quinn had last year. Think about that. And they're playing better. So it's got to be Gallant. Grant, if the Rangers get one of Kessel, Smith, and somehow bring back Kravtsov, how would you set forward lines? Ooh, that's good. I would go Kessel or Smith on the first line with Zibanejad and Kreider. My second line would be Panarin, Strome, Kakko. My third line would be, I guess, Chytil, Gaudreau, and Kravtsov. And my fourth line would probably be Barron, Reeves, and I'm missing somebody. Gauthier when Gauthier gets back, I would say. Because I think that line could be awesome. So I would, you know what? I like Gauthier, but I would move him in the right deal too. Yeah, you know what? I agree with this, Mr. Fantastic. I agree. Oh yeah, Rooney, Barron, and then Reeves. So, I mean, I would really. You got Rooney there, so. But yeah, I'm with you on this. If you don't make a move, then you're telling the team that you don't believe in their chances to win a cup. You can't stand pat. And that's another reason why I don't envy Drury's position, because Drury has to make a big choice here, and he has to make a move in some sort of way. And if you make a move that just seems like, oh, I'm just gonna dip my toes in and that's it, then that also sends a bad message. But you can't go all in because this team's not ready yet. They're not. But you never know with a hot goaltender in the playoffs. So yeah, Mike, this is actually a good point. Or DQ was that bad, which he was. We're playing like they did with Knobloch. And I said last year when, DQ came back, those first 4 games, the 2 games against Buffalo and the 2 games against Washington, they just started playing like crap again. They stopped showing up. And they won 2 of those games and they lost 2 of those games. And the one that they won against Washington, they hit the awesome button in the third, and they really were outplayed for 40 minutes of that game. So, and what if kids are like, this is actually a good question here, Mike. What if kids like Barron are the answer? Yeah, that's great then, because that's an entry level contract in a bottom 6 position where you shouldn't be spending a ton of cap anyway. And that's what you want. That's how you have to build these teams. The Detroit Red Wings of the 2000s and 2010s up until, like, I would say 2014, 15 or so, they were so good at bringing kids along. Like, even like in Yzerman and Fedorov's late days in Detroit, they brought up Datsuk. He was like a third line center for them. And he played well for them. And then he assimilated into a top 6 role and became a top 6 center, and a damn good one at that. Henrik Zetterberg started as a middle 6 winger and then worked his way up into a legitimate top 6 forward. It's just, it's bad. You gotta be able to know how to do that, and this team hasn't really done that as of yet. But Ariana might be right here. It could have been Quinn. And I tend to lean towards the fact that it was Quinn, because it just the top guys didn't have any idea of how to respond. They got punched in the face by Carolina right at the start of that first game in the bubble when Brady Shea took out Jesper Fast, and they never recovered after that hit. And 2 things were apparent for me there: a lack of leadership from the players themselves, and a lack of leadership from the coaching. So, I mean, that you can't have a coach like Quinn. But you're right, John. You got to preach balance. Mike, I understand why you would want to stand pat. I just don't think that they can or will do that. That's just me. I don't see him doing it. I don't see it. I'll probably go, I would say another 10 minutes or so. We'll do more questions. So get questions in. I usually like to try to keep these somewhat short. But you know what? I like to do a lot of them more Q&A time than anything. So definitely get your questions in on here. But you're right. Zibanejad and Panarin definitely looked terrified against them because they were so used to beating them in the regular season, and then they were like, I don't know if it was terrified or mystified, but yeah. And again, the efforts against Boston, Pittsburgh, Washington, and the Islanders last year, that was the last straw with Quinn. They gave up on him. And for me, for Quinn, the biggest thing was when he went on the Cannon Strick podcast and basically took zero accountability for what happened. That showed me that he's a bonehead that doesn't deserve to be coaching in the NHL. And that's the difference with this team. This team is playing so well under a Jack Adams winner who is getting more out of a lesser roster. Send Nemeth to Ottawa. You know what? That's a good idea. I just wonder. Actually, hold on a second. Let's see something here. All right. So Nemeth is at $2.5 million. His salary goes up. In actual dollars, he's owed $6 million between these next 2 years. So $2.5 million in actual salary next year, $3.5 million in actual salary the year after. Actual salary is the problem with Ottawa because Melnyk is a cheap ass. He is a cheapskate in the highest degree. He is an absolute cheapskate. He just does not like to spend money. So we'll see if they would take Nemeth. Oh yeah, that's an absolute steal for Ottawa, David. I don't know if he'd be an upgrade on D. I really don't. I don't know if I would. If it wasn't for contracts, I think I might take Duncan Keith over Patrick Nemeth at this point. The aging, decrepit Duncan Keith might be a better option for them than Patrick Nemeth. So. Grant, do I think Jones get called up again soon or holding to have play with Hayek against him? I don't know. Are you asking me if I think Hayek gets the call over Jones? I hope not. I hope not. Libor Hayek is objectively terrible. So. Do I think this team has a better chance to win a cup in the next 5 years than any of Hank's prime years? They have upper end talent that Hank's prime teams did not have. Marty St. Louis was obviously a great player, Hall of Famer, but he was in the twilight of his career. The fact that he was still almost a point per game player, or still about a point per game player when he joined the Rangers from Tampa that season in 2013-14 is astonishing, especially the year after he won an Art Ross in 2013 in the lockout year. Provided he only won it because Crosby got hurt that year. But, yeah, Marty St. Louis was in the twilight of his career. So, Rick Nash, but where was the other top-end talent? I just think offensively they have more now. I think they have a defenseman that's better than any defenseman that they've had since Brian Leetch. I think Ryan Lindgren is better than Dan Girardi or Mark Stahl could ever be. Maybe not Mark Stahl. Mark Stahl's peak years were really good. But I think Lindgren is better than Girardi ever was. I also think that Jacob Trouba is at least as good as Stahl and Girardi in like the 2012s in that range. So, Mike, again, thank you guys. Remember, and girls, please remember, like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends and family about us. Recommend us to anyone you know that might be looking for somewhere to talk hockey. We appreciate it. We just want to grow the channel, get more eyes on us here, and continue to put out more good content. I love doing these. but you definitely would help me out and Mark and Anthony as well for doing that. So, the eye injury really killed Mark Stahl. The Eric concussion was really the first part of it, but the eye injury was really, that was it. He was well worse off. I'm not forgetting McDonough. Fox is better than McDonough ever was. I'm not forgetting him. You too, Coyote. Thank you very much. You have a good night. It was a deflected Timonen slap shot. So, yeah, definitely. And thank you, Brody. We appreciate the kind words. Mike, third line's got to score. They've got to score. They've got to put up some sort of offense, and that's what they were not getting when it was the kid line with Chytil, Lafreniere, Gauthier. They would pot a goal maybe here or there, but that would be it. So, Grant Barron won 7 of 8 last night. 7 of 8. So he's pretty good at them apparently. So that's a big thing. Go for about another 3 minutes. Go to 9:05. So get your last comments in, boys and girls. I got the Anaheim Detroit game going on my TV here. So Anaheim's up 1-0 on Detroit. But and Trevor Zegras scored the goal, one-timer. Looks like on a power play. So Bruce, good to hear. Hopefully you get better and get well soon. Definitely keep us upgraded. Hope to see you more in here. And you have a good night. Barkley Goodrow, Chris T. Yeah, definitely recently. Definitely a lot better recently. So that was on Chytil. Playing them with Barron, I think we might see better production. You know, it might be right. Maybe Barron's a better fit. I think he's more of a playmaker than Chytil, that's for sure. Grant, you're welcome. You have a good night. You too, John. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. 2012 going. Good disaster movie. Not much of a disaster movie guy. I don't watch many of those, but I have nothing against him. You know? So, but we've had a pretty good night. So you know what? I think I'm going to end it here. It's 9:04 now, but I'll just take a minute to thank you all for coming. Actually, Chris T, I'll get your last one in here. Any changes I want the Rangers to implement? Yeah, just get Patrick Nemeth and Libor Hayek out of the lineup. Get a better depth defender, and then add a scoring right winger. So, yeah, it's a disaster movie in itself. David Quinn, yikes. So, yeah, Chytil hasn't really done it. He hasn't really done it. So, yeah. But thank you all for joining and being on with me. I love doing these, and like I said, I'll probably do one Tuesday just because of the fact that, again, another late game on Monday night. So hopefully I see you all Tuesday. I'll probably try to do one Tuesday afternoon. If it's not Tuesday afternoon, evening, I will make the StreamYard. I'll set up the studio ahead of time so you get the notification. If you have the notifications on, the minute I set everything up, you'll get the notification that I made the video time. So, but Brody, thank you very much as well. Chris T, thank you as well. Prediction for tomorrow, Lou. I'm gonna go 4-2 win for the Rangers on the prediction. So, fantastic. You're probably right about DQ setting them back. I would have to wholeheartedly agree with you there. So, but yeah, I'll set the video up and I'll let you, and I'll try to do it well ahead of time so that I know what's going on. So, everybody take care. Have a good night. I hope I see you all on Tuesday. And then if not, I hope I see you all on Wednesday when we do our regular weekly show. Thank you very much for joining me, and you all have a good night. And as always, let's go Rangers.